Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Club Down's Downtime. This week's guest will be chatting about the wonderful summer of 2010 and the journey to Croke Park. I know you'll enjoy listening to Brendy and Ambrose and Danny and Marty and Benny. So until the next time, take care and stay safe. I remember talking to Paddy Talley at the start of that campaign when he was staying on, and he was sure that the quality was there. Obviously, he had the experience of he was in with what do you call him, Mickey Hart with when Tyrone won the All Ireland, but he was sure that Down had the quality to win. And would you have found the same, Marty, because you'd been away from the GA for a few years, like Ambrose coming in? Did you find really from the McKenna Cup or the National League coming on that there was a lot of quality within the setup?
Yeah, I think the way that the management team approached the McKenna Cup into the first 7 games of the league with the final as well, it was kind of they grouped it into like 9 or 10 games pretty much, and you were able to get momentum. You know, you played, you got to know how we wanted to play. Then we trained, then we won, then we trained, then we won, and it was really, as Benny and the boys mentioned, there was no injuries. You knew the starting lineup. There wasn't loads of boys coming in, maybe one or two here and there, but you were starting to really build that continuity game after game after game, and the trainings were equal to that. Like Tally came in and put a real nastiness into training. Like there was small-sided games all through the league. You were just battering the life out of each other, and that was adding that little bit of steel to the talent, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I used to dread some of those trainings. Callum, Darren O'Hagan, even back then, I remember just like some of the whistle wasn't blown all year, like in the training games.
Yeah, yeah. Because the other four, like you guys, probably had been involved in maybe a number of setups where we had big games, but we suffered a lot of inconsistency. So you know, some days you had a good result on a Sunday. You were going into a training week and it was grand, but then you lost the next game. Whereas at the start of 2010, as you said, Ambrose, you were winning the McKenna Cup games. You went straight in then to a league campaign, and I don't think we dropped a point during that league campaign. I can't remember, but we
Through the Tipperary.
was that what we drew one game, so won
Yeah.
6 and drew one. And it'd been a long time since any down group of down players had that level of successful consistency. Brendy, would you have felt that we were getting better even during the league?
Well, surely, yeah. We're putting in. It suited us to play, as the lads said before, consecutive games and close together. That suited us, and that's why the qualifiers that year really, really suited us, because the consistency thing was always our biggest problem. Like we're against Tyrone and Casement Park that year. Like for 20 or for 25, 30 minutes, we were playing some serious football, like, and then the wheels come off during that match just for whatever reason, and it always was there. But that was a problem in previous years. So then the qualifiers, like, they're not everybody's cup of tea, but they were a godsend for us that year because the games were coming thick and fast, and slowly but surely the inconsistency was going. If you know what I mean, you might have, rather than be a long period of time of playing poorly, it was beginning to be shorter. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. Because after the league, even though we lost to Armagh in the league final, I wasn't overly, I suppose, looking at it from a supporter's point of view. Yes, you wanted to win, but I was sort of hoping that there would be a bit of a drop off before the championship, because we've all played in Ballybofey before, and that's a tough place to go to in the championship. Like, Benny, do you remember we went? Was it under Pete? We played, I think, Donegal in the championship, maybe 2001 or 2. It was a really, really wet day, and the game just got to go ahead right before. I think the minor game was called off.
I think ours was called off. We were actually a bus, and we had a turn. We were literally at Ballybofey, and we got word that the game was called off. We had to go back the following week.
And
yeah,
we were only beaten by maybe a point that day.
Always going to Ballybofey was always a real tough.
Yeah.
Tough. Even there in 2010, we got off to a real bad start against them. I think the goals.
The two goals
at the start. I think Brandy, you dropped one into the net or something. We get off.
He actually just left. You put on your video. Put on. We want to see that. We want to see the face again.
Yeah, but we got off to a real bad start there, and then we came back and won it. But the second game then against Tyrone, as Brandy said, you know, for a half an hour we played some football, but then second half we didn't perform.
Did the Tyrone game, I remember coming away from it, were you disappointed and angry that you didn't perform, knowing that the last 15 or 20 minutes of the game was probably although you were maybe against a better team, it was probably the worst 15 or 20 minutes we played since January or February.
I know for me, after the Tyrone game, I remember if I've ever done this before, but I went to Friar Tuck's and I got a chicken burger on my way home, and honestly, I felt, I don't remember if I was near the crying, but it was as close to near the crying eating a chicken burger as I've ever got. And I just says to myself, this is never going to happen for us. I was so down and so annoyed because, as I remember Ambrose even going through in the first half after 15, 20 minutes, and he knocked one over. And I says, you know, I really thought we were going to win that game and win an Ulster title. And I just, as Benny said, for whatever reason, and they beat us, I think they beat us by 3 points in the end. And even then, we were playing so poorly the second half, but we still had chances to win the game.
Yeah.
And that was the most disappointing aspect, because it just looked as if, as a group of players, we kind of bottled it. You know, there's no other way of putting it. But I think we just couldn't close out games like that in the Ulster Championship. And we'd been there before us under you, and it really come down to us as players. We just couldn't close out games.
I know what you're saying, Danny, but I suppose, having been involved with you the year before, while I was disappointed, I actually thought you weren't that far away. You know the way when you come out of a game and you haven't played well, you haven't been beaten by much, and you're sort of pissed off a wee bit. I actually thought that with the qualifiers, I think there was a 2-week break, or maybe even a 3-week break to your qualifier game. And if the team sort of got together and approached the qualifiers in the right manner, depending on the draw, I thought it would be a good chance to get a run Longford, getting a home draw against Longford was probably the best thing that happened. And then, was it away to
Awfully.
Offaly?
Yeah.
Way to Offaly. And that was a pretty eventful trip. That game.
Brandy's uncle.
That's
was-
Danny's pen pal. Danny's pen pal.
Jeez. Tell us about the on-flight entertainment then, Brandy.
I was sitting in the bus, and then obviously, and I looked about me, and everybody else seemed to be sleeping or sort of snoozing, and I could see a signpost for Mullingar East or Mullingar South Industrial Estate. And I thought, what the fuck are we doing here? I literally did, and I looked up the bus, and
And he was sitting, and the bus driver was sitting right beside you.
I looked up the bus, and Jackie Vinny was looking down with the same sort of expression on the face, and it was so then we were late, and then MacGyver near killed everybody.
Had they travelled separately? Obviously,
Who?
the Brian McIver and Patty.
No.
Tally.
No, they were with us, but I think I was half time though, even mad because obviously it's a slow start.
Yeah.
I think
We were behind at half time.
Before the game, wasn't it? And it's just
Yeah.
straight up, formed up, and it was a disaster. Man. It was an absolute.
But we were better that day. Now, obviously, been at the game, we had no. We didn't know that. We didn't know there was a few Board Falcha stops before Tullamore. But once you got over that, was the next game Amber was in? Was it Breffni against Sligo or something?
Yeah.
And it was serious. Like, it was champagne football. I think we annihilated, beat them by, I don't know if it was 20 points, but it wasn't far off it.
It was more than 20. It was 24 points.
Was it?
Yeah.
It was really, really good. And did you score most of them, Danny? Is that why you're...
No, Morda. Morda
I was
actually.
part of it, yeah.
He lived off it for a while. Morda scored he only come on to sub for about 3 minutes, and he scored about 3 goals.
Jamal were 15 points up.
Each point he scored, the shorts were pulled up higher.
I hope he's not in your house looking at this, Danny. He after that, the draw was made for the quarterfinals, and you got the reigning champions, All-Ireland champions, Kerry in Croke Park I think on a Saturday night. Maybe it was the end of July anyway. It was in round there, the bank holiday in the south, and I know from supporters in the county, it just was the draw that everybody wanted. I think it was a double header. Tyrone and Dublin on after it or something.
I think so. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And so the crowd was, the atmosphere was going to be electric. How did you prepare for that game going into it?
Normal.
Just normal. You know what the history, Ambrose, with down in Kerry, and obviously with James having played against Kerry in the 90s, there couldn't have been any fear of that, was there? Kerry obviously were a wee bit of a transition, but at that stage, confidence must have been incredibly high.
I think from the draw being made, I don't know any player that didn't want to be Kerry pulled out. I think that's what we wanted that. And like, I probably don't. You don't really remember going into the game more confident of playing the top team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're probably ready for it because we have been stuttering past teams in the qualifiers. We had what Sligo, but they had played probably that 6 or 7 day turnaround. But we were probably just coming back to the league form again. and like it's probably we were confident. Like you weren't cocky. You were just confident. You knew that they were there, and we were hungry.
Yeah, yeah. The first half that day, the first half was just serious. It was incredible. You know, obviously the highlight was, and it probably settled us a wee bit. Mark got a fantastic goal, and it seemed to give us the platform then to push on and just go for broke, because never at any stage in the game, Marty, did it look as if we were going to lose it.
Yeah, I think with Brandy made a couple of really good saves. I think the one thing I remember from a Kerry perspective that day was Cooper, and being on the same field as Colin Cooper and how well he played. Even though Damien Rafferty did a great job on him, some of the glimpses of things that Cooper did, but Brandy made a couple of crucial saves. But we actually saw that game out really, really well. We won it fairly easy. I think he scored a penalty at the end to make it 116 to 110. So, you're looking at 9 points there.
Yeah.
So
It was holding the All-Ireland champions, the reigning All-Ireland champions, nearly to single figures.
It was. They got a very dubious penalty at the end that they tucked away, but it was the most enjoyable second half, I think, that we played in, because we knew we were going to win and the crowd was filling up and we were playing really well and the lads were coming off the bench playing well. And yeah, that was a special day, that one.
Yeah.
How did you feel, Benny, about, I suppose you'd been on many's a journey with down teams, and you were always the talisman for a down team. Were you able to, sort of take a look at the group going forward and say, did you ever at one stage say to yourself, there's something different happening here?
Yeah, I knew right from the start. I knew from the first league game, as Brandy says, it was against Kildare. I just knew if we kept everybody fit and we had 3 or 4 subs there, we could do and the big key to that year was keep fit. Obviously, we lost Ambrose in the semi-final, but for me, I think the key was to keep everybody fit. And the fact that we went and played Kerry, got into that game, like myself and Danny and Brandy, who were about longer than Ambrose and Marty, it was a dream to go and play Kerry. So when that dropped, we were actually going to training on the Tuesday night, and you could see everybody was buzzing. Everybody was.
Did you make it on the Tuesday night?
I made it the Tuesday. Marty just about made
it. was training in Dundalk, Marty?
The game was on the Saturday. It was one sleep to the Tuesday. That
got us through to an All-Ireland semi-final, and it's one of those games that you get to enjoy. The tension in it was palpable. It was serious right from the start, because I don't know whether it was because Kildare, we'd beaten them easily in the first round of the National League game, as you said, and it was in Kildare. Whether or not it was because they had a management team made up of Armagh players. They definitely were the Southern media's favourite team at that stage that year. I think they'd lost to Louth early on in the Louth Championship, and then they had a couple of they went on the same journey as us and had a couple of big wins. But there was nobody giving us much chance, even though we had beaten Kerry. I remember reading the Southern papers at the time, and nobody was giving us much of a chance. But that performance, that day, that semi-final, was fantastic. It must have been incredible to play in, lads.
Yeah, the pace. 15 minutes, first 10 minutes, I was absolutely as Mark and Emmett Bolton. He never stopped. But see, for the first 10 minutes, I was banjacks. But then we got ourselves back into the game. I think they went 3 or 4 points up, and they were going all right. And I get that goal, but the intensity was serious. And I think between maybe the 10th minute and about 15 minutes to go, that's probably we played all year. You know, it was fucking outstanding, the football we played, and we went 7 or 8 points up. And then last 10 minutes, we fell asleep again, and we threw it away only for that save at the end. Like.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously, you know, they still talk about that. They still talk about the square ball, Benny, and the crying goes on about. And over the course of that year, there was quite a few decisions didn't go Down's way, and went in favour of the opposition, and yet they talk about the square ball. But taking that out of it, that game had everything. You know, it does have the controversy which you need, but it had everything. Danny, obviously, you would know some of the Armagh boys well. After the game, I had heard it said that they were surprised at the pace at which Down played. They actually, it caught Kildare unawares. How did you feel playing in the game?
I suppose it's hard to say when you go into. You probably know this yourself from playing. You kind of just nearly focus on yourself going into games like that and trying to get your performance right. Like in the game against Kerry, I personally felt I was okay, but it wasn't any better than okay. And when you look at, I suppose, who had lost in the interim between Kerry and Kildare being Ambrose, like Ambrose had kicked a couple of frees off the ground against Kerry, foot 50, put it over and stuff like that. So it was a massive blow. So Kildare was a big ask for us, but as you rightly said, they were the media darling of the South, and they wanted to see them getting into a final. And I suppose I would have been a wee bit aware of that. But I did feel that we had enough. Kildare wanted to play football. That's for sure. Kildare were going to go forward. John Doyle, great player, all them all lads. They were going to let you play. So I suppose I would have been aware of that going into the game. So, on a great day, great warm day in Croke Park, it was just a great occasion. And as a team, we were coming off a Kerry win the week before. Our momentum was up. And, it could have went either way. But then Kildare's goal, 9 or 10 or 11 steps the fella took. So I don't.
Yeah.
It's never talked about.
No, it's never talked about. But
Randy talks about it.
You needed to tell him to get around me.
Where were you? That goal went in.
I was only looking for Jerry Lee. He got lost in Croke Park that day.
But I suppose for that particular game, we got through it. But as the All Ireland final would tell us that missing Ambrose, it's a huge blow. And Peter Fitzpatrick come in and done well. But I suppose he was a huge blow for us that particular day, and it would turn out in the final that was going to be. And we were doing it for him as well. We were doing it for him so that he could lead us out in All Ireland final day. So I was always worried at the back.
Yeah. I don't want to dwell too much on the final itself, because I'm sure it still hurts. But I remember being down in Croke Park the night before, doing one of those chat shows, and I had a very capable and able sidekick, Mickey Doyle, with me. And I thought, even though Cork had I think they won the National League that year, but I was pretty confident that their failure to get over the line in previous years would give us a good chance. It was evident, and probably I'm going to ask you, Ambrose, at about a year that probably is full of mixed emotions. If it doesn't break your heart at some stage, the season had started so well for you. You were made captain. Your performances in the National League. It's a long time since Down had a midfielder who was scoring consistently in games. I think you went through the National League. I think you went through the National League with maybe 112, 111, 112 out of 7 games from midfield is pretty remarkable. And with the championship, maybe 4 or 5 games you got, and you had won 5. Now, we never had that before, and we haven't had it since. And I remember thinking, even on that Saturday night in Croke Park, will this come back to haunt us? You know, will your absence, not just on the pitch, but your presence, and did it have an effect, do you think, on the team at any stage, Brendy?
Oh, I did, surely. Yeah, absolutely did. And I think it was there for all to see that we were missing that big man big time, like, you know, for his aerial presence and his cut and putting the head in where it hurts.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think you don't want to dwell on it, like, but I just think whoever made the call to play the club games, I'd say that if they had their chance again, no one can know the future, but even in the, before the Kildare game and that, I think Ambrose put on a real brave face to the players, and we thought maybe he's a chance to come on if we're winning or whatever. But I think deep down everyone knew that it was a severe injury. And it's the one sort of I think if Ambrose had been playing, we would have beat Cork.
Yeah, Ambrose, that game, I think, Benny, was it against you in Newcastle?
Leitrim, was it?
The game before that, Leitrim, I think.
Was it Leitrim?
Yeah.
Did you know, Ambrose, it was bad immediately, or?
Yeah, no, I knew.
Yeah.
I knew as soon as it happened. I just knew, just because my mom was doing the bag for me, and I was actually trying not to let the tears out. You knew, like, you just knew.
Yeah.
Because I had done it before, and I knew, like, and I remember going off the pitch and just sitting there. I don't think I watched the rest of the game, like, because, like, it's a selfish thing to say, but I didn't care because you weren't worried. That was it. You're just.
Your season was over.
Season was over, like, and it was over for everybody. It was over for my season was over for the club too. And funny, like, probably forget about it too. Like, we had been flying at the time too with Longstone, like, and the whole thing just for me just fell apart. Like, that was probably the one time I felt fully. That was me, like, maxing out that year probably, because it was hitting. I think it was just turning 26. I was injury free. I didn't fear anybody, like.
Yeah. Well, it was obviously by your performances and not wanting to go. Like, I think in some of the National League games, it was not 3, 1, 2, not 2. Even in the championship games, not 2, 3, 1, 2. To take that away from a team, and knowing that the closer you get to the bigger games, the margins are smaller and smaller. It was awful. Marty, you mentioned there was there not about the putting on of the championship or that round of games that particular week. Looking from the outside in, I don't think it has ever happened. It ever happened before, and I don't think it ever happened since.
No. I think we had 4 weeks when we beat Kerry. So I think we beat Kerry 31st of July, and then the 29th of August was the Kildare game. That's a long time, and people had to make a decision, and, you know, Down probably hadn't been in that position for a while. But I was just back from Australia, and I was playing for the Kingdom, and Ambrose and the boys, they were flying with their clubs and everything. But I just wanted to stay part of that wee shell and just train together, and then you go back to Kingdom for your clubs for 10 days or whatever, and that's when the injuries happen. So I felt at the time, and it's okay saying it now, like, it's all great in hindsight, but I felt at the time it was a poor decision.
Yeah, it's. I remember in previous years running the county ran games, whether it be league games or championship games, in between championship games, and injuries or even suspensions. And there was a time when, you know, if you were suspended for the club, you were suspended for the county as well, and it caught down out a number of times, and hopefully it had a massive effect on the squad, and obviously personally, Ambrose, how did you cope then? Winning against Kildare was probably helped cope for a little bit. But on the reverse side of that, you were going into an All-Ireland final. And was there any chance?
I don't know. Like I remember, I think we played the Sunday before, with the knee strapped up, like, and I pretty much on the feeling I played like as a spare man. Like you just knew yourself, you weren't able to turn or move. Like I suppose the dreamland thing was always going to be if we were winning.
Yeah.
Come on before it's over. But like the chances of that ever happening in any game, never mind the All-Ireland final, are they're nowhere between. Like it's just you're just putting on a great face. Like
it was awful for you personally, and obviously from that sort of team environment, Benny, your leader was gone, and having lost Liam at the early part of the year due to injury, losing two massive players was just something we couldn't get over. Yeah, I'm glad, Marty, you opened up the bit of controversy. There's a couple have come in, and you probably know what a few is going to ask about the substitutions and whether they were a bit hasty, or did you feel it made any difference at all? The silence is deafening.
no, I don't know. Like I'd say like the boys had went the whole year and probably had worked out the way they were going to work the subs the whole year, and probably maybe stuck to their guns on how they were going to act in the final. And it probably like I say, it's probably easy to say now. Why did McComiskey come off? Or like it's easy. It's probably easier now to say 10 years later, McComiskey was flying. But all you're thinking about, well, if such and such comes on for them, what are we going to do to change that? And like maybe our subs didn't work because our subs probably came on and closed out the game for them that day. But then they were bringing on Graham Canty and they brought on Kavanagh. Like they brought in experienced men that were.
And I remember thinking about Paul. Like Paul did have a good game, but if you, from a management point of view, if you think Paul can go for 60 minutes at full tilt or 65 minutes, you're sort of thinking then if you can get somebody in fresh to take on his immediate opponent, who has tracked Paul for 55 or 60 or 65 minutes, to be an option, because we did create chances in those. After the subs were made, it wasn't as if we were totally out of the game. We still had chances. We just probably weren't as clinical with them as we were in the first half.
Yeah,
I think Paul scored 3 points, and at the start of the second half, he hit the post with a left shot. And it's only the subs up had worked, and I think nearly we were over prepared substitution wise for the final. It was maybe 2 set in stone when we went into the final because they had worked up until that. And I know about Marty, with his brother John playing. Like John, I tried to put myself in John Clark's shoes, and John was starting the final knowing that he was going to come off. And how do you psychologically prepare for a game when you know you're coming off? And for me in a final, I don't know. I don't know. It's a very difficult thing to do, and I'm not, I suppose, blaming management because it had worked up until there. But I suppose a final is a final, and you have to make that decision on the day as the game sees fit. And I think it was Conor McGinn. Conor McGinn actually come on for John. From memory, and it was usually Ronnie Morta coming on for John. So there's already a difference in how the substitutions were made on that particular day. Again, Dan Gordon, people say about Dan moving the midfield, but Dan had a good first half at full back. So, I think the Ambrose miss was massive for us in the second half, just, breaking up that momentum that Cork had got. But the substitutions wise, it's a difficult subject, I suppose. Maybe other people that come off will know more than what I would, but it was a difficult one.
Yeah, I think people were very, very quick to look to blame when we don't succeed. And I know from a spectator's point of view, and Aidan was involved in the squad, there was, I'm not trying to downplay the result of the final, but the journey that year way outperforms the result on the day. And I know from players' point of view it's different, but Down supporters hadn't had anything like that in 20 years. You were going to matches, you were preparing from a couple of days out. You were still back in the day of the lunches and the picnics and that sort of stuff. It was phenomenal, and sometimes I feel we're just a wee bit quick to look for the excuse and just say shit happens.
Well, I remember James saying after the match, like, we'd only been in 6 finals. If we had been in 16 finals,
yeah,
like Cork or the Meath teams who had lost finals, like Cork, I think, had the experience of winning the Munster title. We didn't have the experience of winning the Ulster title. Cork had the experience of being beaten finals, and we hadn't. I suppose they maybe knew how not to lose a final. And we didn't know that current crop of players didn't know how to win one because we hadn't been in a provincial final in one. And Nicholas, I'll never forget, he came on at half time, and it's only when you look back, he absolutely nailed Peter Fitzpatrick in the throw-up.
Right from the throw-in, yeah.
And Nicholas Murphy had the same thing done to him the year before by Tag Tonali, if you remember, when he won.
That's right.
So Nicholas Murphy probably had that in the back of his head. And Peter Fitzpatrick's a young midfielder, probably, was just going for the ball. But again, that's that bit of experience.
He's going for the ball about 3 seconds late.
And that's the experience. Things like that probably matter, where I think Peter was a bit concussed nearly from it. Not concussed, but he definitely was affected by it,
Yeah. Listen, lads, a couple of questions have come in over Twitter and Facebook. There's a guy, Mark McCourt, asks if any of the current players would have made the team, and would they have made any difference?
Benny, you remember them, please.
For personally, I would say Darren O'Hagan, Gillen Rooney, maybe Conor Harrison, but absolutely, with working with them boys there, there's no question we Darren, and without a shadow of Gillen Rooney.
Yeah, Mooney as an athlete, Benny, would he be up there with Danny? Like,
oh, he'd
have took Danny's place.
He'd come in. He'd look well at number 10 there.
he must be some athlete, is he?
He's unbelievable. There, Marty knows himself. Like, he's an athlete, and the speed of him is unbelievable. Like, but I do think that those two boys make the team. The forward line there would be hard to drop anyone on the forward line, but
yeah.
Say James would find a way of getting John off.
No, I wouldn't be dropping my mate John, no way. No. Bubba would make it in front of Brendan there.
Good one, Benny.
Here, lads, we'll wind it up with that. Listen, thanks a million. It was just incredible. I'm delighted to see you all doing so well and keeping well. I don't know when we'll ever get back to playing ball again, whether it'll be this year or next year, but I think I think the main thing is to look after yourselves and the families and stay safe. Thanks a million.
Thanks, boys.
Thank you.
Good luck. Great to talk to you again, lads.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Please.